Welcome to What She Taught Me, a series of honest conversations about what women are dealing with in the sandwich generation. I've spent the last few months navigating my mother's health crisis from Seattle while my sister handles everything on the ground in New York. And somewhere in the middle of it all, I started having conversations with women and men about how our mothers shaped us, how we show up, what we carry, and what we've had to unlearn. What She Taught Me is a series of honest conversations about that influence. Good, bad, complicated, and everything in between. Because whether your mother was your greatest champion, your biggest challenge, or somewhere in the middle, she left a mark. And that mark is still showing up in your life today. I'm Jill Consor Beck, founder of Go Long. Let's get into it. Shelby, I'm so happy to have you here. You've been such a strong supporter of Go Long, which I'm always grateful for. Welcome to the show, and tell us about yourself.
Thank you, Jill. It's a pleasure to be here today and talk about something other than perimenopause, which is my specialty. I have two Substacks. One is called the Periprofessional, where I coach and support women going through the perimenopause process so that they understand the biological changes going on in their body. And then I also have a general women's health Substack called the Women's Health 365 Collective, where I support writers of women's health topics on Substack, giving them the audience and the voice that they may not have had otherwise due to the influx of all of these people who write about health now on Substack. So I've been having a great time over the last 2 years and meeting wonderful individuals like yourself where we connected and got to know one another through that experience.
Navigating Substack together, it's been its own kind of bonding experience, right?
Yes. I thought I was going to have to police the Women's Health Collective a little bit to try and find those really authentic writers and people committed to women's health, but it's fleshed out its own and really attracted the people that I can relate to, I can identify with, and that I would be proud to support and encourage promotion of their materials.
There are a lot of really good voices, and we have some of those people in common that we always rely on and cite. You just have to be willing to do the work and sift through, because there's a lot of not great stuff on any platform for that matter. Yes. So it's gravitating towards the people who speak your voice and speak of the experience you're living in, which leads into these honest, candid conversations where we can all learn from each other. So this is about moms. What I'd love to know, Shelby, is when you think about how your mother influenced who you are today, what's the first thing that comes into your mind?
My mother influenced me in so many different ways. First off, let me preface by saying I was a middle child, and I do have middle child syndrome. I was sandwiched between two sisters, an older sister and a younger sister. We had a very interesting dynamic between the three girls and my mother. But the one thing that my mother really taught me was that there is such a thing as girl power, and not to be afraid of men just because they have something between their legs. And that's exactly what she told me. She carried that through everything that we did growing up. She wanted me to live a very fulfilled life, no matter what it was, whether that was to get married and have children like my younger sister that was her dream, or to have a career and be independent and live the life that I had envisioned for myself, whatever it might be. She really lived that herself as a very, I'm going to say, traditional, non-traditional woman and mother. She was married. She went to a 4-year college, which was unusual at the time for a woman back then in the early 60s. She then went on and got her master's degree. Again, a lot of women during that time did not go on to advanced higher education. Right after college, she got married. That marriage lasted for about 1.5 to 2 years. In that time, she had my older sister, and then felt that relationship was not the best one for her and made the decision to get a divorce. Again, at a time when that was not common for women to do. After that happened was when she went on to then pursue her master's degree, and she ultimately got remarried to my father and had myself and my younger sister. So she really did live the independent spirit of someone who paved her own way outside of traditional conventions at the time.
That's an extraordinary story. So what did she model for you, intentionally or unintentionally?
I would have to say probably unintentionally. She had her things going on that she wanted to do. And with that, parenting was very different back then as it is now. She gave me permission to show up in the world in the way that I could. When I wasn't able to do that, she gave me permission to step back. One day I wasn't feeling well and I didn't really want to go to school. I had a father who would push me. You need to push through this and go to school. It's not okay. My mother would be, well, if you don't feel like it, let's call you in and we'll get you. She'd always take care of me at home and just allow me the space to do what I needed to do, without shame or blame or pushing through things that I shouldn't have pushed through.
Your mom being divorced at a time when there weren't a lot of divorced people out there, divorced moms in particular. So that extra stigma, because at that point that wasn't a thing, right? You weren't born yet. But when she talks about that phase of her life, what do you recall most about her making the decision to leave her first husband and having a child at that point?
It was really just about independence and finding her own way. She got herself an apartment and lived with my older sister until she met my father. That was a whirlwind romance between the two of them. They met in February and then they were married by August and then they had me 9 months later. That was a whirlwind time for her. That's what she was probably most proud about, that she walked away from her relationship with her head held high under difficult circumstances and was able to achieve things on her own as a single mom.
Was she getting her master's in between those relationships too, or did she wait until she got remarried?
She started to get her master's degree when she was single, and then took her a couple of years to get it. When I was younger, I knew my mom was different from other moms of my friends because she had her master's degree and because she worked. Because of that, she was my mom, but I really didn't appreciate it at the time. It wasn't until I was much older that I really can look back on that and be, wow, she went through all of that. She pulled through it and she's able to live another day and tell the tale. Because of that, that greatly influenced me when faced with adversity that, okay, we're going through something difficult, but this too shall pass. And she always said that. I want to say, and glorify our relationship and say it was always easy. But again, because of middle child syndrome, I always felt like I was left out. I always felt like she favored my younger sister. My younger sister needed a lot of attention. She ran on an emotional level that I didn't run on. My older sister was always very rambunctious. My mother had her hands full with the three of us, but we had our sticking points on things, and that was really hard.
Talk about, what did you watch your mother carry that no one really acknowledged? It's hard when you're a kid. You're not going to have life experience to know certain things. But what did you watch your mother carry that no one acknowledged, like how hard that was?
Looking back on it now and knowing what I know about the nervous system and how we process things, my mother had a lot of trauma. She was very open with us girls. We would talk about our menstrual cycles. We would talk about things that you wouldn't normally talk about between mother and daughter. She was very open with experience that she had. One example is she got pushed into the pool as a child. She didn't know how to swim, and that panic of being pushed in and going under and having somebody come and save her was traumatizing to her. She made sure that we all learned how to swim as children so that we would never face that same experience. Because of that trauma that she carried with her, even though I know how to swim, I don't really enjoy the water, but I noticed within the last several years that I actually hold my breath around water. When I'm taking a shower, when I'm brushing my teeth, when the water is running, I hold my breath, holding on to that trauma of hers. She was also, her junior or senior year of college, she ended up getting into a horrific car accident with her future husband, who was her boyfriend at the time. She broke her leg. She had multiple injuries. She was in a wheelchair. She still went to college. She went to college in Philadelphia. She lived there, and her friends took care of her and helped her to complete her schooling while she was healing from this accident. Because of that, she imprinted that trauma on me, as far as she never liked to drive in the snow. She didn't want to drive in bad weather. She was an extremely cautious driver. That got imprinted on me as well. I'm the same way. I do that to my kids, like, oh gosh, we're going to have a rainstorm. It's going to be snowing. Do you really want to go driving in this. There was that, her accident. She was very open about she had had a miscarriage before my older sister. These were the stories that I had grown up with. Back then, there was not support for this. She was just expected to get through it all. She was so open with us, says a lot for she needed to process it with somebody, and we were safe in order to do that for her, even though we were kids ourselves.
Yeah, so that's a fine line to balance, because the thing is that you want to be candid with your kids, but then are you treating your kids like friends, peers, as opposed to the fact that they're kids? But you're trying to also tell them that this is life and shit happens in life. So one of the questions I have in like my question bank for this is like, did she ever ask for help? It sounds like she was relying a lot on the relationship with you and your sisters. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, she definitely was putting stress on our relationship, especially if there were difficult times between her and my father. We heard about everything.
How does that change? You talked about you're a more cautious driver and you're trying to encourage your kids to be more cautious. In terms of asking for help, you've now basically are building a business based on people seeking out help. Maybe you can connect those two things.
I did not learn how to ask for help up until my own pregnancy, which was a twin pregnancy. It was a complicated pregnancy. I was put on bed rest for the last 13 weeks of my pregnancy. I ended up delivering at 34 weeks. When you are stuck in bed all day, you need to ask for help. And that was really the first introduction that I had asking for help. And you know what? I wasn't even comfortable asking my mother for help. She's now passed away. She's been passed away for the last 20 years, but she was around when I was pregnant. And it was even hard for me to ask her for help. She was willing to give it. It was hard for me to ask for help. That you carry that with you. I had no other choice but to ask for help and to learn how to manage all of that and realize that asking for help is not a source of weakness. It's a source of strength, because from time to time, we need help. We need to ask for help. There's no failure in that. There's no shame in that. It was a lesson that I had to learn by going through it.
Now, you have your kids. They're adultish, we'll say.
Yeah, they're 20.
They're the twins?
They're the twins, a boy and a girl.
Is there a moment when you were parenting and all of a sudden something came out of your mouth? You're like, oh my God, did I just say that?
All the time.
Talk about that and how you felt about that.
My mother was ahead of her time. She was very health oriented. She wouldn't buy white bread. She would only buy wheat bread. She would get brown eggs because back then in the 80s, brown eggs were local eggs and local eggs were fresh. She would spend the money on brown eggs, and she didn't keep sugar, soda, any of that stuff in the house. But she was a smoker. That was an interesting concept. Because of her, that's really one of the reasons why I've always been interested in health. I've always tried to get her to quit smoking. For my entire life, I was leaving pamphlets around the house. I was always trying to get her to quit smoking. With that came her being a germaphobe. She was very germ conscious. She would carry around a cup of water that collapsed, like the water cup collapsed, and she could put it into her purse, and then she would fill it up at, the water bubbler so that we could have water, because we were all thinking about water back then. She would say little cliche things, and I could hear myself saying that now. When my kids were younger and we would walk to school, and I'd say, if it's brown and round, step around, meaning if there was dog poop on the floor, you on the ground, you had to step around it. I came up with, when you were using Purell for them, I would say, the germs don't die until it's dry. So she would come up with little sayings and stuff like that. She was very quirky. She was an artist. She was an art teacher. So creativity really pressed upon me in funny ways. And then there's things that probably because of her miscarriage, that really does a number on women's heads, more so than they probably realize that. But because of that, she was extremely cautious with us. I always told my kids, look, I'm not a playground mom. I can't go with you to the playground. That's a dad activity, because it won't be any fun if I go. I'm just going to be like, hold on, don't touch anything. It's okay. Be careful. You're going too fast. That was my mother imprinting on me. Just constantly looking out for danger everywhere. If the car was driving and she had to stop short, and she'd throw her hand out, because we all sat in the front seat back then, she'd throw her hand out to protect us. She was very, very protective, and I'm overly cautious with my kids. Luckily, I have my husband who is much more flexible, much more easygoing when it comes to these things. And he's like, you're not raising veal. These kids need to get out and live and be on a playground and go touch dirt and go in the forest and run around and be kids. So he balances me for sure.
What would you say their risk tolerance is, the kids?
When they were younger, it was my son in particular, because, boys. But as he's gotten older, he's becoming more and more cautious. Particularly, he's at an age where in this country, he's not yet able to drink, but he has access to that through college. He assures me that he's making good decisions and he doesn't tolerate it in other people, whether, they're not, his friends aren't risk takers. He always has picked friends. My daughter is definitely not a risk taker at all, but I see a certain level of maturity now coming in from my son. He's pretty good. But again, I wonder, did I go too far? Did I really imprint upon them?
Time will tell. And look, all you could do is do the best you can. There's a lot of shaming and everything else. And I'm not a parent. I'm a dog parent. So I'm not a parent of humans. There's so much judgment out there. And all you could do is do your best. You had good intentions with how you were trying to raise your kids. If there was one thing that you wanted to impress upon, if you could tell your younger self, right, as a parent, if you go back 20 years, while you're balancing, taking care of your mom, because parenting your kids, your marriage, your career, what would you tell your younger self?
I think I took my mother too seriously, and I don't think that was her intention. And I held her to a very high standard, which was really inhumane. To be honest, I don't know why I did that, but I did. And I think I would look back and say, you know what, don't take her too seriously. Allow her to have faults and be human. I think I wanted her to be superhuman and not have emotions and not have disappointments and not, sometimes I felt like she would say things to me and I would get really upset. And she didn't really mean anything by it. She was a product of her generation as well and her parents. I don't think she meant what she would say to me that would get me so upset. So I think it would be not to take it so seriously and allow her to be a full human being and to have faults, that it's okay.
You're trying to hold your parent onto a pedestal. And as you get older, you realize they're humans just like the rest of us and they're going to make mistakes. You see that a lot as you're taking care of your parents and you have to get more involved in their business and understanding some of the decisions they've made. And you're like, what is this? This makes no sense. All right. We're going to wrap up this episode of What She Taught Me.
I will show you my mother.
Oh, that's great. Look at that.
I think this is like high school or college. But
I love it.
I like that picture because she only lived until she was 63. So unfortunately, after she passed away, my father had a major house fire. So we don't have a lot of memories from her. She was an artist. We lost all of her artwork. We lost everything of my mother's. Why would we take it out of the house? So that's like one of the few photos that I have of her.
I'm sorry. That's sad. Yeah. I wish I had something better to say other than that sucks.
I've learned to live without, and the memory matters. So many people hold on to things, material things that they don't need to hold on to. I've learned to live without.
Yeah. We'll have Shelby's contact information in the show notes. What She Taught Me is a series of honest conversations like this, good, bad, complicated, and everything in between about our relationship with our moms. With that, remember, it's your life. Go the distance. Go long.